What's happening, everybody? It's Dave slash DK Mode 83. I said I would be bringing you more reviews, and I'm a man of my word. So, before we get into it, hey, you know what? Let's just get into it. What am I reviewing? Layton Exclusif. I know it's kind of a cop out because I did Layton the other day, but I talked about this fragrance a lot and want to go ahead and get it done. You can see I do have the 82% reformulated version, but I still think it's an amazing fragrance. I am looking for an older bottle, so I will get my hands on that and let you know if it does change my opinion of this at all. So let's go ahead, break down the notes first, then we're going to break down how are the notes different than the original Layton, and then get into what it smells like. So 2017 release, just a year later than the original Layton. They've dubbed it as a richer, more luxurious version of the original, and I would agree with that. So what are the actual notes? On the top, you have almond, mandarin orange, bergamot, and watery notes. In the mid, you got civet, geranium, rose, gardenia, and water lilies. In the base, you got the guaiac wood, the Laotian oud, vanilla, coffee, sandalwood, Indonesian patchouli leaf, amber, oak moss, and pink pepper. A lot of notes going on in that base, and a lot of notes in general compared to the original Layton. So, if we're going to go top, mid, and base, how did it actually change? So on the top, you got to take out the apple and replace it with almond, and then take out the lavender and replace it with those watery notes. In the mid, you got to add civet, rose, gardenia, and water lily. So basically the whole mid except geranium. And then take out violet and jasmine. On the base, you got to add oud, coffee, amber, and oak moss, and take out the cardamom. So you keep a lot of that same structure of the base. You're losing the cardamom. The pepper, they say pepper in the original. They say pink pepper here. Similar vibe, I'm going to say. Otherwise, the notes are very similar. I can see why people say it's basically the original Layton, add oud and civet. Because when you get down to the base, I personally think it's more complicated than that. But when you get to the dry down, that is a little bit how it smells. But from top to mid, quite a bit different than the original Layton in my opinion. So let's go ahead and spray this on and get going. I have had some camera issues, so I'm already wearing several sprays. I am praying I don't choke anyone out later. Here we go. Okay, Layton Exclusif. Here we are. Yeah, you definitely get almond and sparkling citrus from the moment you smell it. It's that punch of crisp, sparkling, watery citrus mixed with this smoky, musky geranium and almond. And I'm already getting some of the woods and the vanilla and type things coming through, mixing with it. Some of those base notes are already present, but really the biggest thing holding this together to me that's giving it that similar vibe to the original Layton is the mixture of the base, the geranium, and that watery, almost green vibe. You're still getting that, you're just adding this smoky musk and almond, and then removing the apple. So it is quite a bit less fresh. It's a little bit more gourmandish almost, but it does have that backbone. When you smell it, you're like, okay, it still smells a little like Layton. To me, it doesn't smell like a completely different fragrance by any means, nor do I think that some of the more challenging notes in this fragrance, which I'm going to list off here in a second, that can be overpowering in civet, geranium, rose, oud, vanilla, coffee, patchouli, and oak moss, in my opinion, can all be pretty powerful and overwhelming notes if they're not handled right. The fact that these are all in here and this blend is so perfect is even more impressive in my opinion, because those are some heavy hitting notes, and the blend on this is, even if this is a reformulation, I don't care because it smells incredible. For me, this was like an Aventus moment for me when I first smelled the old batches of Aventus, and it was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. I have not smelled something quite like this, and there's literally nothing about this I would change. Nothing. To me, this is perfection for a fall and winter fragrance. You get spiciness, muskiness, sweetness, woodiness, freshness, citrus, florals. It's got so many things going on, and the way they are blended together is so harmonious. You can, yes, you can sit here and pick apart the notes, you can smell them, you can smell each of them, but the way they are blended together to create this fragrance is fantastic. I love every second of smelling it as it changes. It transitions from that top where you're getting the almond and that punch of citrus, that starts to fade away, and you're getting not quite into the dry down, but pretty close. The florals pick up a little bit more. Never becomes a heavy floral other than that geranium, in my opinion. But you are going to get that smoky, musky, vanillic civet. And for some people, that can be an issue. I know on some people's skin, doesn't matter how small the portion of civet and oud is, it's going to bang on your skin. So it's certainly possible for some folks this is a civet bomb. That's normally what mine is. I normally do not like that note. And in this, I adore it. I think it does so much. It adds a smoky, musky, vanillic note to it that I didn't realize was really missing. I know there is smoky vanilla, but it's a different, like, musky. I also think the other reason that I tend to disagree with folks that say it's just take the original Layton and add oud and civet is I think the amber, especially in the dry down, is playing a huge part in why it has this rich, luxurious feel to it. Yes, it has a bunch of new heavy notes, but amber, it just ties it all together. And I'm an amber freak, so for me personally, that was a great addition. There's just again, I can keep saying there's nothing I would change about this fragrance. It was, for me, an absolute home run masterpiece. I feel like it's something everybody needs to at least get their nose on. I would put it on your skin first. Do I think it's a good blind buy? Probably not, but again, I said it yesterday, I don't think any fragrance is. That said, I think as far as a fragrance that has oud and civet in it, this is a pretty mass appealing and safe fragrance to get your nose on. I don't think it's going to offend a lot of people unless they are super sensitive to some of those heavier notes that I mentioned, or they just don't really like a heavier, woody, spicy fragrance. To me, this is the original Layton, but spicier, woodier, and a touch more gourmandish. That's the best way to describe it, in my opinion. I think I'll keep saying it. To me, this is a masterpiece. So let's go ahead and get into the actual ratings. So I'm going to add one more category that I did not include yesterday, which is versatility, because I think that is a huge consideration when comparing the exclusive version with the original Layton. So, what did I actually give this? Scent, you've seen my eyes rolling in the back of my head. 10 out of 10. I would change literally nothing about this fragrance. Not a thing. I love it. It is one of the best smells for me. Like, if I wanted to just make my pillow smell like something, it would probably be this right now. For sure. So, I don't know what else to say. 10 out of 10. Longevity, I get anywhere between 10 and 24 hours. It does become closer to the skin scent, but that skin scent lasts quite a long time on my skin, so I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Projection, again, improved over the original, even with the original the reformulation. I get an extra couple of hours with that original bigger projection scent bubble. It doesn't reach out farther, however, it does last a little bit longer, so I got to give it a little bit better. To me, projection's about perfect on this. Maybe a little, I could use just a touch more amp up with the dry down, but that's just picking hairs at this point. Bottle packaging, only difference from yesterday, or from the Layton review, is this little Layton Exclusif on there, which I personally think makes it actually look quite a bit better. So I'm going to bump it up a little bit to 9.5 out of 10 again. Versatility, the one I said I would add. I actually think for a fragrance with oud and civet, this is one of the most versatile ones I've ever smelled. That said, I think it is a colder weather fragrance. I don't think this one's going to do as well in 80 plus heat, especially once you get into that dry down. That said, I still think it's way more versatile than people think. But this one is more like a 9 out of 10, and this is more like a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. So we'll give it a 7.5 out of 10 on the versatility. Overall, it is still an absolute masterpiece of perfumery for me. This is a 10 out of 10 fragrance. I have not given that out often. This is up there with Aventus, Lumiere Noir, and possibly L'Instant de Guerlain, I think are maybe the ones I've given 10s. If someone knows that and wants to correct me, please please let me know, but it has been a decade since I did this. So, but for me, this is one of the best fragrances I have smelled in the 10 years that I have been away. I highly recommend everybody get your nose on it, get it on your skin, and give it a shot. If you like what you saw today, please click like and subscribe down below. Like I said, I got a lot more coming for you. The next one for me is going to be followed by Kerosene, who is a reviewer coming up when I was coming up. And let me tell you, it's a fantastic fragrance, and I got a lot to say about this one. So I'm looking forward to that, and thank you for joining me.